Hey nerds, here's an explanation for the CSS battle for the 8th of May 2026. This was an interesting one. It looked really simple at first. It looked like just this main shape and two circles, but then you notice that there's this circle appears to be behind this white shape, and then the circle on the right sits on top of it over here. So that's what ended up making this a bit more complicated. Because initially I didn't notice that, and I just did the default thing that I would normally do for if I see two circle shapes like this, and is use a radial gradient. So I'll go like background, radial gradient, 1q, because that's the smallest unit and keeps the aspect ratio of the circles 1 to 1, I guess, like an actual circle, not an ellipse. So we do that first color stop, and we make it 15 pixels about, and then do the next color stop, which we could copy here, but I can see that it's just six of the same letters repeating, which means we can just use 3 instead. And then we put a 0, so that would be basically it's a shorter way of doing this. So we make our next color stop start from the place where the last color stop ended, and that basically gives us a hard stop of the gradient. So we put this color in again. Okay, see, that's kind of the shape that we want. So yeah, normally if you don't have that second color stop, that's what your gradient would look like. But we can do hard color stops like this and basically make a circle shape. So that's the background that we want. That's the background. So we're using the background shorthand. That's the background image. Next, in this background shorthand is the position. So first is the x value. We'll just start off with 0. I can see already on the y value it's got to be a bit higher up, like 30, like that probably. And then slash, and then the next thing is the size of the background. So this will basically determine how much it repeats, essentially. You could do no repeat, but the default value is to repeat, which we actually want now. So now we've got to space out these circles properly. What do you want? Probably, I think it was 180, 175 or something like that. And then we can see we can just position it on the x-axis a bit more. Yeah, 25, was it? Okay, we need to make this a little bit smaller. You can see over there, so that should be, the background size should be 170, and that's probably going to be 30 pixels. Yeah, that's kind of what we want. And the next thing obviously is to just make this, so we've just done that to the HTML element. Next we're going to do the body element, which we target with this just universal selector. Give it that background, position it with margin. There we go. Okay, not quite. That should be 65 pixels, and then we want to give it a border radius. So use the shorthand, top left 0, top right 0, bottom left 20 pixels, bottom left 20 pixels. Okay, and then we're almost there, but now you can see that line where the circle on the right actually overlaps, which you don't want. So a trick that we can do here is use the same background that's on the HTML element on the body, right? And we're going to create the same shape, but instead of having a color stop over here and it starts to become orange again, we're just going to make it finish on white. And there's a trick to do that, but just to illustrate how this is going to work to begin with, I'll do it the longer way. So let's take out this background and put the same thing here basically. So now this one is the same background, but we don't need this last color stop. This could just be taken out. Alright, or what you can also do is if that value is much higher, you wouldn't even see it. So yeah, we can see we can definitely reuse a lot of this. This value we would need to change. Either we'd have to change this part, or we'd have to change this value. to get the right shape on the body element while reusing this background. So, but let's just do it the long way first, so you can see what we're trying to get to. So now we have the same gradient, but it's just one circle over there, and then all we need to do is position it a bit more with this background position on the body. Need to go. What was it? Yeah, we need to move it up a bit more. But these, I'm not sure if you see the issue yet, is that now the background is too small. We're getting that circle on the left as well, which we don't want. So we need to increase the background size. That's one way to fix that. So if we bump this background size up, then that should fix it. I want to make this less. There we go. Okay, that's exactly what we want. So now that that's done, we're gonna see what we can reuse and take out, and immediately I can see that we have a lot of the same code over here. So let's do some refactoring. We'll make this a universal selector instead, so it applies to HTML and body. And then we know the first thing that we need to change is this value. If we can just change that and the background, we need to change the background size and the background position. All right, so we need to change 3 values on this first rule to make it work on the body as well. So let's just do that the long way for now. Let's make this a variable as well, and then we can take this part out. So the first value, we just want that to be a really high value. We can make that like 100 pixels, 200 pixels, whatever, or just make it like 1 inch, 9 inches. That'll cover it. And then the next value that we want is the background size. If we just increase the background size, actually, we don't need to change the position. If we just make it a bit bigger, we should be able to get it in the right position just like that. So you can kind of see that working. Okay, there we go. So we've reused this whole rule basically, and we've got 2 values over here that we're having to redefine for the body element. And this is where you can use the font trick basically. So instead of using variables over here, because these are 2 like unit values, like size values, you can use values that are affected by font size instead. Basically use those as like pre-built variables. So let me show you what I mean. So we can go onto like the unit golf tool and check the size 35. What would that be in a value that's affected by font size? So I'm just going to check which one I did over here. I went with 2.2 EM. There we go. EM is related to font size. So if we put that value in here instead, 2.2 EM, then we don't need this second variable. All we need to do now is make the font size really big. We can do centimeters as well. And we've got the same thing. So there we've used font size as a variable. But there's more. You can also use line height as a variable in the same, and change it in the same property. So how do we do that? So we're going to see the value that we want to change here. We want 170. What is 170 pixels in line height? 9.44 line height. So we swap this out. Don't need that variable anymore. We go 9.44 line height, and then like this, you could adjust the size of the line height and get your thing to the right size. But now we're going to have to play a little bit with this because your font size will affect the line height. So this is going to take some fiddling. We know we want a smaller value for the line height. So let's go like point something, 0.7, and we know we want a bigger value, like as big a value as we can without it being inconvenient for the line height to be sized. So I know from looking over here that it was about 94 pixels. That's kind of, not 94 pixels, yeah, 91Q, which is probably 91Q, 86 pixels, actually. So, yeah, 86 pixels, and 0.79. We're going to have a hard time seeing this correctly on our browser because your browser has a different line height, most likely, to the browser on the server. And usually most things are one-to-one, but things that use line height and font size, you almost definitely need to use this tool, which I'll link. It's the CSSBattle Previewer. Really great set of tools. I'll link the creator there as well. So let me just change this to yesterday's target. Okay, let's take a look here. What do we need to change? 6 pixels. Are we still using? We don't need that anymore. Let's see. What do I need to do to get this right? Let me just compare it to the solution that I had. I know there was a fair amount of fiddling that had to go into this. This kind of thing is very fiddly because it's, I mean, I haven't tried actually to do it like as an exact, like to actually calculate what it would be. Whenever I try to do that, it seems like it goes wrong. So I know we need to place it with some of these values. I could check if we make this 90 or 100, like we are making the white section bigger over there. But, okay, let's take this out. We don't need this. Funny that it's not, I need to just double check that that this is going to be close enough to do on this browser. Okay, it works there. So let's see what we got wrong. We've got a percent over here, using a percent instead of a static value, instead of like pixels over here to position it. Let's just put that in to make that 13%. If you can use percent for background position, it's definitely better. It's often shorter, and then you don't have to have a space in between the X value and the Y value. Okay, that's good. That did help us. Okay. Right. So yeah, at this point, it's just playing with the pixel values and the line height values to get things exactly where you need them to be. You can see if we keep fiddling over here. Let's move it over to the battle previewer. Okay, yeah, there we go. So that's exactly what we want. We've reused the entirety of this background radial gradient rule. The whole thing's being used. So we have this, and then we're using font size to change the second color stop position and the background size. We're using font to change the color stop position and line height to change the background size like this. So change the font. This is font shorthand does the font size and the line height, and then you have to declare a font afterwards. And the quickest way to do that is to just do like an empty string like that, and luckily the browser just closes the string for you if you leave it open. So it's a nice rule to have like right at the end. This gets all the way down to 141. So I know that these values can be changed. I think this was 91Q. You can check that in the battle preview. So obviously I went from pixels. I always start from pixels and then go to the smaller value. So yeah, we'll change that 91Q, 148. We still got some changing to do, so we can do that. Get rid of that space. What else? This 15 pixels I know is 5 view height, so we can use 5 view height over there. And these two values, we can make these percent. Percentage values are great because you don't have to have spaces in between them. Saves us quite a lot of characters. I think this was 13 pixels, what it should be. I mean 13%. Cool. Okay. we're almost there. Can get rid of probably some 1 or 2 more spaces. Maybe you can spot this before I can. No extra spaces. Where's the missing one? Oh yeah, you didn't change this value. 30 pixels is 32Q. Well, that's the closest. Sometimes that one doesn't work. 31.8Q is like a bit more of an offset, but in this case it works. And that's how we get down to 141. Cool, hope that was helpful.